Yeah, so as we were talking about, we had to make sure that as procurement officers, um, we manage the contracts and manage the contracts very well to avoid any um, issues. We have to manage the contract and manage it well to avoid any issues in the contract process. So we don't award the contracts and go and sleep. We award the contracts and then monitor to see that the contractor execute the task very well. So in the process of contractual execution control, both parties, if I talk of both parties, I'm talking about both procurement department or the entity and then the contractor or service provider. We have to make sure that the contractor and the entity, we all have our responsibility. We all have our roles that we are playing. We need to make sure that we play our role together to ensure the successful delivery of the contract. So the contractor will play your part and make sure you execute the task according to the specification given you, and we the entity will also make sure we discharge our duty by monitoring the contract, making sure the contractor executing the task as expecting of us, visiting the site or inspecting the product or service that the contractor is giving us. So it's our duty to make sure that we do all these things, and then we have to make sure that we set rules and regulations by making sure that if there are any changes that we want to have in the process of the contract, both parties have to come together and agree on and document it. For instance, let's say we are putting up a structure, a lecture hall for the Kumasi University, and we have awarded a contract. In the process of the contractor execute the contract, management decided, or it came to them that no, the number of maybe urinals, washrooms, or maybe offices in that lecture hall or that project is very small. We need to add. If they assess it technically and then they realize that yes, that adjustment can be made, yes, the committee, that is the entity, and then the contractor, they can come together and agree that we want you to add A, B, C, D to the project. Then they will do the estimate, do the necessary estimate on it, and then the quantities. And then if they accept and they agree on, they record it, they put it on records and make sure that it is done. So it's very, very important that when we are managing contract, any changes that we want to embark on, we have to agree with the contractor and approve on it, and then keep records. And in the process of discharging the duty, there can be disputes. Yes, issues can come in, and there will be some kind of clarification that the contractor will also need from the entity. All these things can come on, and we need to address it. Yes, we need to, and that is why we are saying that any contract that we assign, we should set a committee, or we should have somebody taking charge of that project. It's very, very important. It's very, very important. So as procurement officers, we need to safeguard the contract, manage the contract, control the contract to make sure that the contractor and the entity, we are all in the same platform, on the level playing field, and we execute the contract to ensure proper coordination and collaboration to the success of discharge of the project. So we procurement officers are responsible. We are responsible, and we have to make sure that all these activities I'm talking about takes place in the organization whenever we discharge we award contracts. And then we should able to also have a right form of communication channel, a reporting relationship, whereby the organization can send information to the entity too can send information to the contractor or the bidder or the winner of the contract. Yes, we are working together to make sure that the contractor is able to execute the task to the what the contract terms and conditions have been given. So it's our duty to able to collaborate with the contractor, and we can decide as committee or entity and the contract, both of us can decide that, okay, if it's maybe it's a building project or whatever it is, okay, we can say that, okay, in order to ensure smooth collaboration and proper communication, now maybe every month, first week of every month, we will meet as a committee to discuss issues. Is that okay? To discuss issues, to see what is happening, assess the progress of work, able to know and make reports, and even correct some of the things that we have seen that we want the contractor to do. Then when we meet and discuss it, we record it. Is that okay? You have to record it, because in procurement, everything is evidence-based. You have to make sure we have an evidence in all whatever we have discussed. And it's very, very important. When we read the Act 36, Section 36, 1 of the Act, it will tell you that we should have a reporting relationship. We have to emphasize the need for effective communication in the procurement process. So as a procurement officers, when we award a contract, we execute the contract. We need to safeguard the contract to make sure that the contractor performs the task according to the specification and the conditions of the contract. We should also make sure we ensure the measuring and reporting progress. And that is our responsibility as procurement officer. The head of entity can call you as a procurement officer and inquire about the situation of a certain particular contract or supply or service. You should be able to have it offhand to let the entity head know that you are in control of the work. And not that they ask you, oh, okay, then I haven't okay, let me call the contractor. No. As procurement officer, whoever you charge to take over control of that project always need to give you a report, a constant report, weekly report, for you to know what is going on. So it's very, very important. Very, very important. That's why I've told you that this work is not for those who are lazy. If you are lazy, you cannot be a procurement officer. No. If you are lazy, you cannot be an armchair procurement officer and you'll be in a air conditioning room and you don't go anywhere. No. A successful procurement officer, you have to move from your office. You should have control of whatever procurement activities you are embarking on. So that is your duty. That is your responsibility. So you should have control and you're able to track everything that goes on in the contract that you have awarded. So the measuring and reporting progress involves tracking and reporting on the performance of the contract against the agreed upon metrics and milestones. This includes identifying key performance indicators and establishing processes for monitoring and reporting progress. The Act emphasizes the need for effective monitoring and reporting in Section 36(2) of the Act. So it's clear that, you see, in contract or projects, we have certain indicators that we set. We have certain key performance indicators you are expecting. And that is what we use as our guide to follow, to check the contract as and when the contractor executing the task. And it is a responsibility of a procurement officer to do that. So we need to track and report the performance as against the various metrics and milestones that we have set. When we talk of the milestones, let's say is a construction project that we are talking about. We have set certain targets that maybe from foundation level, maybe within 2 months they should finish foundation. From foundation, they should start putting up the blocks and so on and so forth. These are the milestones that we have set and follow to make sure that the contractor is executing, meeting the deadline, the timelines that has been set. And it is our duty. So any point in time that we are called to give an account on the state of affairs in any project that we have been assigned to, we should be able to account for it. We should be able to give a vivid information and accurate information as what is happening on the field. And it cuts across all departments, be it construction, be it supply, be it service provide, the consultancy or whatever service and contract that we have awarded. We have to make sure we have control. We know what is happening. We shouldn't be an armchair procurement officers. No. If you do that, you will never succeed. As a procurement officer, you need to be on the field to see what is actually happening. You need to track the activities of the person that you have given your contract to make sure the person executing the contract according to the specification and meeting timelines is very, very important. And make sure that what you have done, you were expecting from the contractor or service provider is what they are delivering. It's very, very important. We should also do cost control and make sure we do cost control and certification of payment. Yes, it's our responsibility as procurement officers to make sure anytime we are discharging, we are awarding contracts, we have cost control in mind to be able to reduce the cost of the contract and make sure that when the contractor needs to be paid, it's our duty to follow up, make sure that all the documentation are done, approval are given for the contractor to be paid. It's our responsibility. You cannot just award a contract and think that the contractor have done the work. For that matter, he doesn't contend whether he is being paid or not. No, it's your duty. So the cost control and certification of payment involve establishing processes and procedures to ensure that payments are made in accordance with the terms and conditions of the contract. You know, in a road construction, now it's a law that if you are given a contract, you need to perform to a certain level before you can raise a certificate for payment. And as a procurement officer, you have to make sure each stage that you have documented and agreed on, that you will go and inspect the work, and if the contractor have done to that level and you need to go and check and make sure you do the necessary documentation and sign for payment, you have to do it. You have to do it. Sometimes some of these procurement officers, when it gets to that time, they want to show superior on contractors. They want the contractor to come and beg them. Sometimes I don't know what the people are thinking. You want the person to execute the person have done the work. So why can't you make sure the person is being paid? It's your responsibility and duty. You have to make sure that you assess the work make sure if you don't have the technical expertise, you have the committee, you have people who understand and have the technical know-how. Let them go and inspect the job. And if they approve and give you confirmation that what have been done is okay, according to the terms and conditions of the contract, you sign the documents and make sure the contractor is paid. It's very, very important. So this includes verifying the accuracy of invoices and ensuring that payments are made in a timely manner. Public Procurement Act provides guidance on payment procedure in Section 52 of the Act, 52(1). And it states that a procurement entity shall ensure that payment is made to a supplier or contractor in accordance with terms and conditions of the contract. So it is clear that it is our responsibility to make sure that we pay the contractors whenever they execute the contract and we are satisfied with the work. We have to make sure we pay them. It's our responsibility, and this improve the relationship between us and our prospective contractors, suppliers, and service providers. We need to ensure a perfect relationship so that always we have good contractors to transact business with. It's very, very important. It's not only the work that we have to make sure they do. No. In as much as we want them to do the work, we have to make sure that when they are done with the work, we pay them. It's our duty. Now, we also talk about managing and negotiating variations and claims. Managing and negotiating variations and claims. As I've told you, sometime in the process of executing the task, we can sometimes make certain adjustment. Yes, in the course of delivering the contract. And if there are any negotiations that we have done and variations and claims, we have to make sure we, the procurement officers, follow the process to the letter to make sure what variation that we have made and what payment that we need to make to the contractors, we do it. It's very, very important. Sometimes we negotiate, and when it comes to payment, then they look as if we didn't do it, or maybe management are not aware. That's why we are saying that whatever changes or negotiation you go, you should make it known, and you should record it, and you should seek approval, so that when it's about time they have done the work, you have to pay them. Everybody within the supply chain will be of known. It's very, very important. So you don't, as procurement officer, independently, I would say, go your own way, take decisions alone, negotiate with contractor without letting the committee or those involved in the procurement process be aware. So when it comes to payment, or when anything comes, people will start questioning you. Who gave you the authority? Who approved it for you? So as a procurement officer, it's a teamwork. It's a teamwork. And whatever that you do, the head of entity must be aware. Those stakeholders within that supply chain of procurement need to be aware, so that when it happens that they need to pay, nobody will argue with you. So you have to make sure whatever negotiation that we embark on, please don't do it alone. The project is not your personal property. It's a state property. It's public property, and you are doing it for your entity. So whatever decision that you make, you have to decide with the committee or those stakeholders within that supply chain to make sure that the right thing are done, and whatever you negotiated for, people will be of known. So the committee have to sit, negotiate, make changes, and then approve all these things. So many negotiating variations and claims involve establishing process for addressing changes to the contract and resolving any dispute or issue that may arise. So when you read the Act, Section 37, it provides a guidance on contract variations. The Act provides guidance on contract variations. So as you are reading your lecture slides or notes, consult the Act and read to see what is there. It's very, very important. The Procurement Act is very voluminous and the content is very voluminous. We cannot treat all the content, but we need to give you the various points that you need, and then in your own time you find time and make reference. That is why when we give you the slide, the outline, we provide you the necessary documents or information and then the references where you can also go and then make more research to better understanding of whatever we discuss in the lecture room. So please make sure you able to allocate some of your time and then you go through the Act. That's why we take the pain to quote the various sections that you can read to improve the understanding of whatever we are giving you. So it's very, very important. So monitoring and negotiating contract performance improvement. Monitoring and negotiating contract performance improvement involve identifying opportunities for improving the performance of the contract and establishing processes for addressing any performance issues. Yes, so that is why in setting the committee, we need people with the technical expertise of whatever contract we are executing, so that they will be able to come out with ideas. Is that okay? With ideas that will improve the performance, the contract performance, and make sure that the contractor able to give out a good job according to the conditions and terms that we have set, so that we, the procurement entity, we have this committee to be able to support the contractor or the service provider to be able to give us what we are expecting, so that we can enjoy value for money, for taxpayers, and for the state. So it's very, very important as procurement professionals, we manage and safeguard contracts and make sure we discharge our duty, we perform our tasks as expecting of us. Likewise, the contractors should also do same. So when we are done with all these activities, we did a contract process. Then and we are satisfied with the contract, then we come to contract closure. That is where contract closure involves formally ending the contract and ensuring that all obligations have been met. Yes, we don't just leave the contract, that the contract finished, we are satisfied, and then no, we need to close the contract, whereby we have realized that the contractor have worked to the satisfaction, to according to the conditions, the terms and conditions that we have set, and we are okay with it. Then we end the contract. When we read section 38, which outlines the procedure for terminating the contract, is also there. When we terminate contract, we end it. If the contract is not performing well, and we realize that he cannot discharge the duty as expecting according to the condition and contract, the condition and terms of the contract, we can end the contract by terminating the contract. When the contractor finishes the contract and we are satisfied, we end the contract. At the end of the day, he has done the work and we follow the right procedure, and then we end the contract as expecting of us as procurement officers. Now, we talk about liability for defects. Liability for defects. Now, when you talk about liability of defects, all that we are talking about is in executing the contract, there can be some kind of defect in the contract performance process, and as procurement officers, we need to able to assess these things and address it. It's our duty. So liability for defects involve establishing processes for addressing any defects or issues that may arise during performance of the contract. So it's our duty as procurement officers to be able to make sure that when the contractors are executing the contract and there are defects, we have to make sure we prompt them and make sure they correct those liabilities. For instance, sometimes if it's about goods supply, so that they will supply the goods, and during the inspection, we can realize that there are some broken parts. It's about furniture and some parts have defect or broken parts. We have to make sure we prompt the supplier, and then we reject those that have defect, and then they will replace it. It's our duty. That is why we are there. That is why the committee is set to manage the contract. So if in the process of executing the contract there are certain issues, certain defects that we have to address, it is our responsibility to be able to make sure that all these issues are taken care of before anything else. So it is our duty to make sure. So that is that. So let me talk about the amended Act 663/2003 provide guidelines on contract management and administration in section 41I. Yes, so the procurement entity shall, after award of the contract, monitor the performance of the contractor and shall ensure that the contract is completed on time, within budget, and in accordance with the terms and conditions of contract. So in addition to this, the Act specifies various procedures and responsibilities for managing and administering contracts. So the contracts, these are the procedures that I was talking about. Contract monitoring, change management, we have the dispute resolution, payment, and invoicing, and contract closure. So this is what we were discussing about. So as procurement officers, we need to make sure that we work to ensure smooth execution of the contract. Now, let's talk about the importance of contract management and administration. Yes, we are managing contracts, we are awarding contracts, we are administering contracts. What are the advantages that the entity or the state stand to gain? There are certain advantages that we stand to gain as an entity, as a state, when we are able to manage the contract and administer the contract very well. And we are going to discuss some of these advantages. So we are saying that effective contract management and administration is very, very essential in the successful implementation of procurement projects. Yes, in proper execution of public projects, we need to manage and administer contracts very well. It's our responsibility. It's our duty to make sure that we manage the contracts, and whatever comes in the process of managing the contract, we have to solve it. That is why we are experts. That is why we are professionals. That is why we have so many stakeholders involved in the executing of the contract. We have so many expertise being part of the procurement process to make sure that we ensure value for money in executing public contracts. So these are the various importance that we stand to gain. We ensure value for money. We ensure value for money. How do we ensure value for money? We ensure that the contractor able to execute the contract. Make sure the right terms and conditions that we have set, the contractor work according to specification, and at the end of the day, the user department can able to make you satisfied with the project or supply that the contractor or the service provider has given us. And we are able to make sure that whatever they give us is able to last for long, able to perform the task that or the reason why we have contracted or we procure those items or equipment. Ensure that there's value for money. They save the taxpayers money. Reduce costs of operations. So we ensure that the public funds that we are managing, the people and the taxpayers' money get value for money. That is what we talk about ensuring value for money when we manage and administer contract and administer it very well. We also talk about mitigating risk. Yes, they are full of risk in contract management. When we are procuring, there are so many things that come into play. And if you don't do the right procurement, if you don't do the right bidding document and then evaluate contracts and make sure that the right person is giving the contract, it's full of risk. In contract management, we have so many things going on there. So many things happen in the process of managing the contract. And we have to make sure as procurement officers, we manage these risks very well. So that at the end of the day, we are able to get what we are expecting. At the end of the day, the contractor will be able to execute the contract as we are expecting, to be able to meet deadlines. The timeline that we have set, we are able to meet it. Even if you are in a private organization as a procurement officer, a manufacturing company, and you give supply to a contractor and you don't manage it and make sure they meet the timelines, at the end of the day, there's a risk that you put your company in. You may run short of raw materials and the supplier have not supplied you the needed raw material that you have contracted him or her to supply. And you shut out the plant. When you shut down the plant, what at the end of the day, look at the supply chain, what's going to happen? You lose your market share. You lose your customers. The confidence of your customers will come down. So these are some of the risks that we are talking about. Let's say it's a structure and we don't administer, we don't monitor to see that the contractor is using the right materials and they put out the structure. And look at the students, the number of students that we have. And these students, when we start using the structure and it collapses, look at the risk. It's not even about the money, the life of the people. So we manage contract to avoid all these numerous risks around. So it's very, very important that we manage and administer contracts very well as procurement professionals. We also ensure compliance. So that the contractors or service provider will be able to follow the right conditions that we have set and terms to comply. Talk about environmental compliance and all those things we need to make sure that to avoid, at the end of the day, what will happen after the contractor have done with the work or service provider have done with the work. We need to make sure we manage it to avoid any unforeseen circumstances. It's very, very important. Now, as a procurement officer, what are our responsibilities in contract management and administration? We have a huge responsibility to handle. We have a task to handle because that is our duty to make sure that whatever contract that we award, the contract and the contractor is able to execute the contract according to what the terms and conditions are specified, according to the criteria that we've set. So it's our duty to make sure that we charge or we put somebody in charge of the project to ensure that we are in control. The supervision is great. We have day-to-day information as to what is going on in the contract process to make sure that the contractor is able to deliver the work to the entity. So after the contract has been awarded, procurement officers are responsible. Procurement officers, we have responsibility. Our responsibility does not end in award of the contract. No. In award of the contract, the responsibility continues to the end of the contract. So we have a great deal of responsibility in the procurement process, in award of the contract, in managing contracts, in administering contracts. We have a great responsibility. So we have to ensure that the contractor obey and follow the regulations and make sure that he discharges his obligations to the letter. We should not leave any stone in the contract process unturned. We have to make sure whatever specification we have set, whatever condition that we have set, the contractor follow to the letter, to make sure that the person is able to give us what is expected from him or her. It's very, very important. It's very, very important. As procurement officers, we have to ensure the contractors fulfill their obligations and the terms and conditions of the contract. We have to make sure. We have to make sure that they execute the contracts as we are expecting, as entity is expecting, as the user department is expecting from them. It's our responsibility. That's why we have to monitor performance of the contractors. Section 46 of the Act. We have to make sure we do contract amendment if there need be, if possible. Contract amendment, we have to handle it. The committee that we have set, whatever goes on, we have to make sure we procurement officers are aware and we make sure we keep records and seek approval according to the Act. Section 46(3). And then payment is our duty to make sure that the contractors are paid. Section 47(1). And then we have to make sure we settle disputes between the entity and the contractors. Is our responsibility as procurement officers. So all these are very important for us. All these are very important for us as procurement officers to ensure that the contractor execute the contract very well. So effective contract management administration are crucial to ensure that the contract objectives are met and the procurement processes integrity is maintained to help to what? Ensure that the contract delivers the required goods services as per the contract terms and conditions as stated. We have to make sure that we have to identify and resolve any issue that will come in the process of reviewing the contract. It's our duty. We should also ensure payment, that the contractors are paid. Whatever payment we have to pay, is our duty to make sure we don't end it, and then we have to mitigate all kinds of risk that will come on the way of executing the contract. So my brothers and sisters, it's very important for we procurement officers to make sure that we execute the contract, monitor the contract, and make sure at the end of the day the contractor execute the task according to the terms and conditions of the contract. Thank you very much for your time, and in the course of the week we meet and continue from where we are living today. The next meeting we are going to continue from the procedure for monitoring and evaluating contract performance That is where we are going to continue from in class. Thank you very much, and please take your time, listen to this lecture, make any note that you want, and make sure you keep this information for future use. It's very important. Thank you very much, and God bless you for your time.